Hey guys, Foxdrop here. Today I want to do a video talking about a new kind of build that I've been trying out and practicing on Lee Sin. It's a build that I find is not very punishing, very noob friendly as well, and also quite effective for considering how non-punishing it is. So if you watched my videos a few days ago, I did a video on this build, this exact build I'm talking about today. It was a gameplay video, but I wanted to do more of like a theory kind of video as well, to give you more of a rundown of how exactly it works, how to play it, more of like a guide, which is what I want to do today. This build here gets rid of a lot of the problems on Lee Sin that were frustrating me about him. And if you guys watch my stream as well and you see that I play Lee Sin all the bloody time, you'll know that I like to play him with high offensive upsides. I play him with a lot of AD, sometimes going full AD. And the reason for that is because I feel like if you're picking Lee Sin and going heavy into tank, which is what a lot of people actually tend to do, especially in the higher elo, then I kind of feel like you're missing a lot of the potential of what Lee Sin has. I think that you're not really playing Lee Sin to like his optimal performance of what he can do, because if you want to be tanky, then there's so many different champions you can choose, which I think just works so much better being tanky than Lee Sin does. And I think if you don't have those AD elements, you're really missing out on what he can potentially offer you and your team. So I like to play him with a lot of AD. However, the downsides of doing that is that it's very hard to play because it's very easy to punish you. You get caught out of position once, you're dead. If you can't one shot someone, you're pretty useless. It's really hard to play him really squishy, because obviously the squishier you are, and then the more you have to throw yourself into danger to actually assassinate people or do stuff like that, then the higher chance you have of dying, and it can be really hard to play that kind of play style. And a lot of the time, the risk isn't really worth the reward. I would say that I play mostly AD Lee Sin just for fun rather than effectiveness. So this build today, guys, it's a bit different. It gives you a lot of that offensive upside, but also gives you a lot of tankiness. Now, I've tried to structure this video in a way that makes a lot of sense and isn't too confusing to follow. Forgive me if it's not perfect, but we're going to try and go with what I've planned out today. So the first thing I want to address is just the overall build of what it is that I'm talking about here. So the build on this Lee Sin build, which is, in my opinion, just really safe and still quite effective though, tanky and high damage, is you want to start with your Tiamat. Now Tiamat is like the first item you want to get on your first recall, or just like the first item you buy, because the AoE splash is actually really useful for helping you clear, but that also gives you that kind of early game offensive boost that Lee Sin quite likes to have, to enable him to snowball in the early to make plays in the early game. But you're not going to go for the warrior enchant. Normally you would go for warrior enchant, but this time you're not going to. You'll still get your green smite for your ward hops. You can change it around if you really want to, but I just like the green smite. And then go into the Cinderhulk early as well. So you'll have Tiamat and Cinderhulk, and then go into the Black Cleaver and the Titanic Hydra. That's really like the essence of the build. A lot of the times I'll also round it off with a GA, because that gives you a lot of like hybrid defensive stats, and also just the fact that GA is, in my opinion, a really solid item for someone like Lee Sin, who's, you know, a valuable target. You don't just want to get blown up and die, because you're going to have a lot of damage, but also someone who's going to be jumping in there and make himself vulnerable too. So that's the core of the build. It's really this high health but also high damage build. Now I think that, you know, the build path specifically as well doesn't really leave you too weak in that early game, which is obviously where Lee Sin wants to shine, where he wants to do stuff, because Lee Sin's level 6 power spike is pretty strong. You know, he's not very good against a lot of junglers before level 6. People like Elise and Rek'Sai, they bully him around, but once he hits level 6 and has his ultimate up, he can do a lot of things. And if you do have that Tiamat early, you can still compete with that damage, and you can still pretty much kill any squishy if you catch them out of position. So as for like some strengths and weaknesses of this build, you don't, as far as like the biggest weakness is, you don't really have that huge one-shot potential. If you do one-shot someone, you're going to have to pull off a pretty perfect combo. Ideally, land your Q on a target. Hello, Shad. Land your Q on a target, ward hop close to them, do some damage. Shad, what you doing? Do some damage. And then do some damage, and then kick them, and then follow through with your second Q, because you want to use your second Q as late as possible, because it's an execute, so it does, yes, I love you too, it does the most damage possible the lower health the enemy target is on. That is like the optimal combo on Lee Sin to one-shot someone, and you really have to put it off quite like efficiently and effectively if you do want to get that one-shot off. However, you don't necessarily have to one-shot people in this build, because you have a lot of damage, and you're very versatile and robust as well, because you're quite tanky. So you can jump in, you can do things, and you don't necessarily have to just go for that all or nothing play. You can jump in, do some damage, and then jump out again. I do think that this build leans itself very much to a skirmishy playstyle. There you go, Shaddy. So you want to jump in, you want to jump out. You can do things as you please. Just let Shad out here. Go on. There you go. Okay, and Shad's out, so you can lean yourself to this skirmishy playstyle. And you don't have to dedicate to the plays, and you're not going to die instantly either, so it's okay. You can jump in, you can do a combo, and then you should be more or less sorted. That's kind of like the pros and cons, right? Is that you don't have proper one shot, but you don't get one shot either. Essentially how it is. I think it's a really nice balance between damage and tanky, while actually still giving you quite a lot of damage. Runes of Masteries as well, you'll want to have AD raise attack speed quints, or AD quints, armor yellows, and whatever blues you want to run. And then for your masteries, either 12-18-0 with Thunderlords or 12-0-18 with Strength of the Ages. It's kind of up to you, it really depends. I still like going Thunderlords just because I like the early game that it gives me, but obviously Strength of the Ages makes a lot of sense with this build, because this build you do kind of need 2 or 3 items before you'll really hit that strength. Once you do have that Black Cleaver and that Titanic Hydra, I think you really hit a really big power spike. So I guess it kind of makes sense to get like a scaling mastery with the Strength of the Ages, not to mention the extra health will also help scale off of your Titanic Hydra too, and just like fit into the build quite nicely by itself anyway. I guess that's another downside as well, is that you do have to have a few items before the build starts really kicking off, which isn't necessarily what you're used to on Lee Sin. Normally once you have your War Enchant, that's a big power spike. But on this build, you have your power spike on the Tiamat. When you buy that, you have your power spike when you hit level 6, but that's not anything to do with the build, that's just Lee Sin. And then you get your power spikes when you finish your Black Cleaver and your Titanic Hydra. Very good in the mid game and also pretty good in the late game. I wouldn't necessarily say it's a huge snowbally build. It's more well-rounded. It's not really an extreme of any kind. What you want to do to actually play this build, some getting into the meat of how you actually want to go about it. You want to play mostly like a normal Lee Sin in the early game, because you still have that Tiamat to give you some extra damage, mostly like a normal Lee Sin. The biggest difference with how you play this build is that you want to put more focus on farming than you did before. Before you would just run around and gank all the time and fight all the time, and whereas you don't want to, you don't want to stop being Lee Sin with this build. You can still do that kind of stuff if you want to, but you do want to put more emphasis on farming, because you do need to hit those item points. For that point, you're kind of a bit meh. You're not really anything too special. You're not weak by any means. Obviously, if you're like 0-10, you might be weak, but by design, you're not too weak. So you kind of want to farm up a bit more. Your laner is recalled and there's some minions for you to tax, or like it's being pushed into the lane and your lane is dead, something like that. Any kind of opportunity for you to go and steal away a few minions, take those opportunities, because you need the extra farm. You need to hit those 2 or 3 items in order to make it work properly. So that's really like the only big difference, but outside of that, it's just kind of like a standard Lee Sin, except you don't have to be too afraid. You can make plays, you can go for like these cheeky plays. You can even honestly be a bit more aggressive if you're going for these team fights, because you can do something like these ladder insect where you put your Q on someone that isn't the target you want to kick, and then fly towards that target, like target A, ward hop behind target B, and kick target B out. Like that's the ladder insect. You can do that without dying. Like if you make an aggressive insect play and you jump into the middle of the enemy team, if you've got this build, you will not necessarily die, but you're still almost guaranteed to kill the enemy carry as well. And this is really the reason why I play it. It's just because it's much more well-rounded. That's why you want to pick this build up. Or maybe that you think you're not too confident on Lee Sin overall. You just think, okay, I want a more of a safe build, but a build that also doesn't mean that I can't really play Lee Sin to his potential. Then this is the kind of build where actually you can still play Lee Sin to his potential, but you also don't have to worry too much about just blowing up instantly and having to be really refined on Lee Sin, because we all know Lee Sin is a very hard champion to play. As far as it goes in League of Legends, Lee Sin is one of the champions who has one of the highest skill caps, is one of the harder people to play. So you don't want to just feel like really useless and just crap, while you're still learning him, or if you're not 200% sorted on him, you don't want to be punished really hard, because chances are you'll be making a lot of mistakes because you're still learning the champion. So if you've got a build that punishes you really hard when you make mistakes, it's probably not going to work out for you. I've actually found that I can carry a lot harder on this build, because I don't have to be so afraid of what plays I want to make, especially the later the game goes on, because if I die, it's not the end of the world, because I'm kind of filling out a tank role anyway, and also on top of that, it's just very hard for me to die. Go try out the build, go see for yourself if you like it. That's all I want to say for this video though, boys and girls. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you thought about this style of video. I don't really do stuff like this, so let me know what you thought about it down below. I hope you did enjoy it. I hope you're having a great, amazing day, as I always hope you are, and I'm sure you are, because you're watching my videos, so I'm sure your day, just whatever mood you're in, you're up there now. You're amazing. You're just absolutely out there now. Anyway, thanks a lot for watching this video, boys and girls. If you liked it, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to me for more educational content. Find me on Facebook, on Twitter, and catch me streaming at twitch.tv/Foxdrop. All those links are down below in the description. Most importantly, boys and girls, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day, and I will see you in in my next video.